Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Beth Sarmiento, the ACE Recruitment Consultant, and I'd like to welcome everyone for today's webinar hosted by Rotorua. And for today's webinar, we will be hearing straight from our employers and RMO, their experiences working in the hospital and employers' recruitment processes pertaining to the ACE application. After that, we will be entertaining questions. You can all put in all your text-based questions into the Q&A function, and then all our panelists will be answering them. So we can start by introducing our panelists. Are there panelists? You can introduce yourself now.
Kia ora, I'm Dr. Kate Kerr, one of the pre-vocational supervisors here at Rotorua Hospital.
Kia ora, I'm Leanne Turvey. I'm the acting RMO coordinator for the medical management unit.
Kia ora, my name's Jenny Martelli. I'm the service manager responsible for the medical management unit.
Kia ora, my name's Sam. I'm a PGY2 at Rotorua Hospital.
Kia ora, I'm Christina. I'm a PGY1 here at Rotorua Hospital.
Okay, so we will start playing the video.
Hi, my name is Holly Wilson. I'm a PGY1 at Rotorua Hospital. Currently, I'm on the medical unit and previously finished my orthopedic run. I chose to work at Rotorua Hospital because I heard that it has been really well supported, as well as it's got lots of really great outdoor activities such as the redwoods, multiple lakes, and we've got a really good work-life balance here. We've also got a great medical management unit who abide by the teno roster, which is also really good. And I've really enjoyed my first few months working here at Lakes DHB. I plan on working here next year as well.
Hello, I'm Corey, PGY2 at Rotorua Hospital, currently working in the orthopedic unit. I chose to come to Lakes DHB as a PGY1 because it's got a great reputation for teaching and work-life balance. The main benefits of working here, you've got the lovely outdoor stuff to do, so if you're a keen mountain biker or if you want to go out to the lakes and that sort of thing. Workload's pretty reasonable here, so most days you start just around 8 and you're normally able to get away from work by 4. You only have to work 1 in 4 weekends, give or take, and over those times you're quite well supported by senior staff.
Hey, my name's Tim. I'm one of the medical registrars here in Rotorua Hospital. I'm in my 3rd year now. I guess a little bit biased because I'm from Rotorua, grew up here and went to school here. But coming back to this hospital was easily the best medical decision I've ever made. The staff here are all wonderful. It's a great place to learn. Not too big that you get lost in the shuffle, but not small enough that you don't get exposure to medical things. So I mean, if you choose to come to Rotorua, it's definitely one of the best things you'll do. Everyone here is great. We've got the redwoods. The hospital here has heaps of social sport teams, touch, basketball, netball.
Hi, I'm Sneha. I'm currently a PGY2. I chose to come to Rotorua in my 1st year of working because I really wanted to come to a smaller centre, and I heard that it was really friendly, and it's been an amazing experience so far. All the bosses are really friendly, and it's a great work-life balance, so I recommend it.
Advice, we're applying to Lakes DHB or Rotorua Hospital, so I think it's probably a good idea if you come in and see our medical management unit personally.
Definitely pop on through some stages during the year and show your face around. It's a very friendly community and they want to make sure that each applicant would fit in here, so that's the main thing.
Previously in the past it's been quite popular among the TIs to apply here, but we've also making space for our Otago grads as well as people from other hospitals.
Come join, lots of fun.
Okay, you can start presentation.
Kia ora, I hope you enjoyed the wee video. I'm one of the pre-vocational supervisors. I'm just going to talk a bit more about working at Rotorua Hospital and the application process. Next slide, please. We've already introduced ourselves, so we'll just skip on to the next slide. Thank you. So why come and work here? Most people who work here think it's a great place to work and live. There's really outstanding outdoor opportunities living here with the mountain biking, the lakes, the rivers, the walking, running, but also the central location of Rotorua being not too far away from the coast and the mountains, national parks, and as well as having cultural opportunities. There's we have some RMOs involved in dancing and performance arts in town as well, heavily involved in that. Next slide, thanks. Just a few visuals there for what I was talking about. Yeah, next slide, thanks. The hot pools are also a big hit and a bit of a social outing for RMOs and SMOs alike, especially as we come into the winter months. But the Rotorua Hospital is a really nice size in that it's not too small, so it's not rural, but it's small enough that you kind of get to know everyone. It's friendly. It's a really supportive environment for RMOs, but it's big enough to have an excellent medical experience, to get lots of hands-on learning. We have specialists heavily involved in the formal teaching program, and there is a wide range of clinical runs, even though we're not a big hospital. We have a very multicultural population here, and a strong commitment from the hospital to Māori health and addressing equity, and that is a pull card for lots of our staff here, not only the doctors but also the nurses and other staff. Being a small hospital, things are easier too. It's easy to get to work, easy to find a park. Lots of people bike to work, and compared to living in a big city, everywhere takes sort of 5 to 10 minutes to get to in town, wherever you're going in town. Next slide, thanks. So just to give you some idea of the size of the hospital and the runs that we offer, just got up here the PGY1 runs and the PGY2 runs. So we don't have we have general medicine, but we do have, the teams are split into sort of subspecialty focus. Each one has a subspecialty focus, but they all do general medicine. And same with the surgical runs. There's surgery and orthopedics with ENT, but not subspecialized surgical services. We offer community-based attachments, which are general practice here in Rotorua, community psychiatry, community rural hospital, which is down in Taupo, and then rural general practice as well. And we may be expanding our community-based attachments as well, but we are able to offer everyone will get a community-based attachment over their first 2 years of working here. We take 13 PGY1s each year, and most of our PGY1s stay on for PGY2 and often beyond for their first registrar roles, either in being a medical registrar, ED, or surgical. And the PGY2 runs, there's a few 6-month runs, ED, PEDS, and O&G, which are quite popular, as well as a very popular 3-month ICU run. Next slide, thanks. The protected teaching time is something that we have worked at to make really comprehensive and make it an excellent learning opportunity and to give you a really good base in your first 2 years of being a doctor. We have surgical teaching on Tuesdays, medical teaching Thursdays, and then every Wednesday we have a 1 hour meeting with the pre-vocational supervisors, and that can be around professionalism, it can be some pastoral care, basically guided by the interns, whatever they want to talk about. If there's clinical issues that have come up, if they're struggling with certain things, if there's some communication issues, and we really guide those sessions based on what the interns want. And we can also bring in other specialists or other experts in different fields if that's what's required. We have a good ground round program, as well as, especially in PGY2, very robust teaching programs in pediatrics, ED and O&G, which the interns find very useful once they're in those roles. And of course, there's lots of hands-on training, bedside teaching, and that's one of the advantages of being a smaller hospital, is that you have personal relationships with the consultants, and that you know them, they're accessible, and most of them are really keen to teach and to guide the interns in the first 2 years of being a doctor. Next slide. Oh, this is just an example of the teaching program. It's probably a little bit busy, that slide, but just to see that we have a broad range. So even though it's split into surgical and medical, it's actually covering a lot of different topics. There's Māori health, cultural safety, looking at racism and things like toxicology and ENT, and bringing in lots of different specialists and clinical nurse specialists as well, to really try and make that a well-rounded program. So there's 5 pre-vocational educational supervisors, and so each intern's allocated to a pre-vocational supervisor, and they're really your go-to person if you're having any issues with anything really regarding employment, regarding your clinical runs, and just sort of career planning. I mean, there's a lot. It's a big step going from being a trainee intern, especially that first 6 months of being a doctor, but then as you progress, get more comfortable with the day-to-day things of being a doctor, starting to think about career and your life in general, and providing that sort of robust pastoral care is really important. And we're a pretty close-knit team, and I think we provide a pretty good supervision and pretty good service to the interns, and we really enjoy doing our job. We do have a GP who's a pre-vocational supervisor as well, which I think we might be the only hospital around the country who does that, but that really helps in terms of organising our community-based attachments, and also having someone to talk to if that's a career option that you're thinking of. Next slide, thanks. In terms of applying to work here, we have you heard in the video they suggested coming and visiting, and we have had quite a few TIs come and visit already. So if you're interested, dropping an email to the MMU, which is our RMO unit, and if you are in the area, coming and meeting one of the pre-vocational supervisors, having a tour of the hospital, and just having having some face-to-face, some kanohi, is really important for us when we're then looking at CVs and deciding where to rank people. We want to know about why you want to work here. Do you have connections to community? And what you're going to offer us as an employer here. We want to know a bit about you. There's a bit of a myth that that the TIs from Auckland all get jobs here, and that's not true. We really strive to have a good mix of Otago and Auckland graduates. The ACE system does make it difficult for us to make it a fair split, but we have had, the year before last, we had an even split. Last year, there's a few more Auckland TIs, but that was, lots of that was because the Auckland grads didn't rank us highly. So we do, if you're a Otago grad, we do really want to try and make it even. So come and visit, but don't be afraid of ranking us highly if you do want to work here, because you're not disadvantaged if you haven't been a TI here. Next slide. So yeah, these are just the usual things, but really important to write a cover letter and to put those things from the previous slide. So why you want to work here, your connections to the area, and giving a good, a good indication of yourself as a person. We do read all of those, your CV, and then all the things that are required from that in the ACE process. It's pretty standard. Next slide. I think that's all from me. So write any questions. You're going to hear from a few of our RMOs now. But any questions you have, put in the chat and we'll endeavour to answer those at the end. Thanks. Yeah. We're just bringing up the RMO presentation now.
So kia ora everyone, I'm Christina. I'm a PGY1 here. So my friend Jane was meant to be here with me, but she's not been able to make it. So I'll be giving the talk with Sam. First, we thought we'd talk about what we love about working here. So lots of people really love the location. Rotorua is close to so many places. And it's really easy to get away for the weekend, get back to Auckland if that's where you're from, go over to the beautiful Bay of Plenty, go up to Hamilton, all those kinds of things. Of course, if you are to stay here for the weekend, you're not disadvantaged at all. You have the beautiful outdoors, the redwoods, the lakes, everyone's into mountain biking, and you'll very soon get into it if you're not already. And then, although there's not much of a nightlife here, we have quite a pumping social club, and there's always some sort of activity, at least once a month. I think there's a party or something going on. And then other fun things are in summer, especially on Thursday nights, there's night markets, or they might be through too, but in summer it's really cool to go down with a group of RMOs after work and get some food and enjoy the kind of cultural activities they have at the night markets. And there's a big sense of community here. So when I say get together after work, it does happen. Everyone goes for drinks after work and does things outside of work together. Everyone has lunch together. I think all the RMOs kind of know who each other are. I wasn't here as a student, and I've very quickly learnt everyone's names and been adopted into the group. So the community is a very strong part of the Rotorua way. And you definitely make lots of friends. You're kind of forced to. As I say, it's a small group. So it only works if we're all friends with each other. A great thing about Rotorua is the lack of traffic. I get to work in 6 minutes and I live on the other side of town. So it's definitely a bonus. And as has already been mentioned, there's lots of parking around the hospital. Next slide, please. So these are just some fun photos of things that mainly Jane has been able to do so far. It's been a bit wet this summer for me, but Jane's collected some photos over the years. Next slide. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about what the job is actually like. So we've kind of mentioned already what the work environment is like, but because we're a smaller hospital, your teams are smaller. Often it's one house officer to a team, or 2 house officers max to a team, and you're kind of working in small groups closely with your registrars and your SMOs. But because of that, there's a really collegial, friendly culture, and there's less of a hierarchy in this hospital compared to other ones I've worked in, for sure. Everyone's approachable. You don't have to be worried about asking your SMO questions. You can text them, that kind of stuff, which I know is not a thing in bigger centres. As has been mentioned already, there's lots of hands-on learning. Everyone's really keen to get you involved. If you're on a surgical attachment and you make it without going to theatre once, then you've definitely been able to dodge the SMOs, because they will be they'll be hunting you down to come to theatre. They want you there. And that leans into the next point of there being really supportive seniors. Everyone's keen to see you thrive, and is here for you and your learning. And so there's lots of teaching because of that. And also with our teaching program, I think compared to a lot of hospitals, we've got very comprehensive teaching. We've got quite a lot of it, actually. We have the 1 hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and radiology on Wednesdays. And we have the pre-vocational meetings every week for the first 3 or so months. So it's a really, really supportive environment compared to a lot of other centres. Oh, sorry, go back one slide. Just in terms of logistics, kind of basic, but it's good to know. So at our hospital, we don't do nights in the first 6 months, which is really cool. And per quarter, you have about 2 to 3 weekends, which fits to the 1 in 4 kind of rule that was talked about in the video. If you don't have a weekend, then you'll probably have a long day during the week. If you're working a weekend, then you won't have a long day during the week. The long day it goes till about 10 o'clock at night. Compared to other centres, we do have reasonable hours. So on most attachments, on a reasonable day, you'll be out on time at 4:30 or 4 o'clock. Of course, things ebb and flow, and some days it's way less busy than that. You might get away early, and then other days you have to stay a bit later. But that's all averages out to a very manageable workload. Because of the more manageable workload, we are category D. I know there's quite a lot of people pushing for that to change, but we're category D on the non-urban scale, and that's for all of the PGY1 hospital-based runs. If you're on community, it does drop down a little bit. And then just in terms of the size of the hospital, when we have long days or weekends, there's 1 house officer on surgery and 1 on medicine. And then when we go to nights, there's only 1 house officer covering all of the surgical and medical wards. Sorry, Sam's on call.
Yeah.
Oh, you do have the med-reg. Yes, you have support, but you are the only house officer. So it has can be daunting to some people, but there is a lot of support there, and they're very, very approachable with anything. Next slide, please. So this is just a bit about opportunities in each run. As we've said previously, we're a really hands-on hospital. You'll get involved with chest drains, doing scopes. Midlines are a massive thing here, learning how to put midlines in on the ward for difficult venous access. And then in surgery, getting to minor ops, getting to theatre, going to fracture clinic in the plaster room, that kind of stuff. And then, as has been mentioned, with the community runs, we have the opportunity to go to Taupo or Turangi, and get out into a more rural area. And then with psych, we have the opportunity to do either a community-based run or a inpatient psychiatric run as well. Next slide, please. Oh yes, Sam will quickly talk about PGY2 runs.
So we don't have a slide for this, sorry, because I wasn't prepared. But PGY2, I just thought I would quickly touch on the great things that are here for PGY2. I think the coolest things are that you obviously have ICU, ED, ONG, and PEDS. ICU I'm currently on, and I personally think is the best run. But the things that I wanted to just make you guys aware of is the amount of, I think, independence and hands-on kind of experience you get on these runs. So I know that in bigger places, as a PGY2, if you were doing ICU or something like that, you kind of have registrars above you and you still get hands-on experience. But the difference here is that it is literally all day, every day. You get to do kind of every single thing, like every outline, every central line, every intervention that is happening, you get the first go with just an SMO with you. So there's only one ICU consultant and the house officer just going around every day doing things. So that leads to a lot of one-on-one like teaching and experience. So that is really cool. And in ED as well, which Kate can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's quite rare in bigger places to get to help or be the first person running a resus and things like that. But here you get the chance with senior support. So triage ones, you get to go. So that is really, really great experience, which helps you kind of as you move on to reg and things like that. So yeah, that is the best thing about being a PGY2 here.
I thought I'd just pop this slide in because I am an Otago grad and I have I'm one of 3 Otago grads here this year out of the 13. And I think it's a good idea, as has been mentioned, to come and visit in person. That really made a difference for me. Obviously, if you're down in the South Island, it can be a little bit hard logistically to get here. So I do know that some of the other PGY ones set up a Zoom meeting, and the pre-vocational supervisors are really open to that too. They basically just want to talk to you and get to know a bit about you and why you want to come here to Rotorua. So either coming in person or doing a Zoom meeting is definitely a good idea. As we've talked about, there's no favoritism towards Auckland grads, and I think that's both in choosing the PGY ones, but also when you're here. Like, I haven't noticed that I'm treated any differently. Of course, people know that the other PGY ones who are here as students, but they're always interested in who I am, and like, I'm a new face, so it's exciting to see new faces around. And you're definitely integrated into the group very quickly. And it's a really easy transition. Everyone is here to help you. Everyone is keen to let you know how you do things and where things are. The biggest learning curve that I found was that I came from the South Island. So I had MedChart and I had to learn how to do paper charting, which was a bit of a struggle at first. And they have paper referrals here, so you have to walk forms to places instead of sending it on a computer. And there's less comprehensive electronic records. But all of that is changing constantly, and we are updating systems. And I know that that's pretty much standard. The paper charting, paper referrals, and less comprehensive electronic records is kind of a North Island thing. So it'll be pretty much the same across a lot of the North Island hospitals. And then the last thing to note is that if you're finding it hard to find housing when you do get a job here, it's a really good idea to reach out to our MMU unit, because we all advertise within the hospital, and they'll be able to point you towards people who are advertising. So that's just a tip for that. Next slide. This is just a bit of fun. Jane and I thought we would rate for different things. Everyone's always keen to know about the food. Jane's really kind. She gave it a 7 out of 10. I gave it a 6, but I think on long days it starts to go down quite a lot. 3 out of 10. On weekends, I think if I could give it negatives, I probably would, but 0.5 is me being kind. But the cafe staff, lovely. They're the best. So
They know your name.
They know your name, they know your number, full points to them. The hospital coffee, that's another area that's lacking. I've lived in big cities for a long time, so I'm used to good coffee, and it's really average here.
Christina's a coffee snob.
Yeah, I am a coffee snob. But Jane reassures me that the hot chocolates and the chais are 10 out of 10, or an 8 out of 10, but 10 out of 10 on a good day. I don't have much to say about the RMO lounge. I think
I would comment. So I didn't like the RMO lounge initially, but when you start doing nights, I think it is the best thing ever, because there's pull-out couches and it's nice to have somewhere where you can chill and watch TV. So I would give it a 6 out of 10. Not very clean, but
I don't think any RMO lounge anywhere is particularly clean. So in terms of car parking, we do have lots of free parking, so that is definitely a 10 out of 10. However, I have stood in the hospital and seen cars get stolen from the window. So I've I've halved my score from a 10 to a 5. But if you invest in a wheel lock, then it'll be a 10.
Bike to work.
Bike to work. We have great bike storage. We have a locker where you can lock your bike up, and I hear that there's e-bike charging in there too. And then vibes, Jane gave it a 9 out of 10, and I gave it a full 10 out of 10. It's great vibes here. Yeah. And these are just some fun photos of the team here. And that's it from me.
Do you have anything else to add, Sam?
I don't think so. Christina did all the talking.
Okay, yeah. Would you like to proceed with the question and for the Q&A session now, or do you still have anything to say?
Oh, look, I'm the service manager here, and I've only just taken back responsibility for the medical management unit in the last couple of weeks, due to a previous staff member leaving. But we have a real passion for RMOs here in this hospital, and that goes to the highest level. And we always want to ensure that our RMOs are getting the best care that they can, and particularly pastoral care. And I think the current crop of pre-vocational educational supervisors that we have are just amazing. They are all very talented SMOs in their own rights, but they just give so much of their time to our PGY 1s and 2s, and are always available to help you out. So Leanne has just come on board as our medical management unit coordinator, and she's doing a fantastic job. She's got a wonderful personality, and you'll find her just so very helpful. We've just employed some new team members into our medical management unit, so we've got new faces, and they're really enthusiastic and have got fantastic skills. So we're just so sort of pleased to be able to offer that to our new PGY 1s that will be coming next year. But yeah, I really encourage you, if you can get up and see us, come and see us and have a chat. But you know, if you can't afford the airfares, which are pretty pricey at the moment, then please set up a Zoom so that we can have a chat with you online and just show you a little bit about what we've got to offer here. And any questions, just flick them through at any time, and we're happy to answer those for you. So yeah, I don't know, Leanne, if you want to mention anything.
Oh, I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So happy to move on to any questions that you might have.
Okay. Just saw 4 questions here. First question is, what proportion of PGY 1s that you take in are not from Rotorua, don't have family in Rotorua?
Yeah, quite a high proportion, I would think.
So I think it's different if you're talking about people that are on placement here versus people that have connections to Rotorua. I think in terms of connections here, there's not that many, maybe 2 a year, I would say, as in family connections. But in terms of placement here, I would say that majority of people who come from Auckland University that get jobs here were based at Rotorua as TIs, or at least at some point on their training, but definitely not all.
Not all, like
No.
Caleb wasn't.
Yeah, Caleb wasn't. But I think that also reflects the applications as well, as in, yeah.
And I think, oh sorry, of the Otago grads this year, none of us had whānau in the area. So we just had strong reasons for being here. So if you write a good cover letter explaining why it is exactly you want to come here, then you're in with a really fighting good shot.
Yeah, and like I say, with the Otago grads, it's something we actively try to recruit more Otago grads. We try and make it 50-50. And the problem we've come across is we've ranked lots of Otago grads very highly, and they have heard that because they didn't come as a TI here, they won't get a job. So they have, they've wanted to rank us first, and they've got cold feet, and ranked us lower, and even though we've ranked them, you know, even in the top 10, and thought they'll get jobs, they haven't ended up on our list because, and then we've heard they actually ended up ranking somewhere else because they thought their chances were higher. So if you want to be here, just, you know, give it your best shot, and do rank us highly, because you won't be disadvantaged. We do have lots of the local TIs who don't get jobs here, and they're upset by that, but that is part of it. We want to try and make it fair and equitable across Otago and Auckland, and we do endeavour to do that.
Okay.
Next question.
Is it difficult for PGY2s to join, or are there any PGY2 positions opening next year?
Yes, yes is the answer. So we do, it will all depend on how many of our current PGY1s choose to stay on next year, of course. So we have 13 PGY1s. And so if they all choose to stay on, then we may only have a few PGY2 positions available. But it's definitely worth applying if you're a PGY2 watching this, because we will definitely have some PGY2 positions, and we've got some for the rest of this year if you're a PGY2 listing at the moment.
So we've had a few PGY2 start this year, so they do, like, things change, people leave for a variety of reasons, or go on parental leave, and jobs do come up.
Okay. Rebecca says, thanks guys for all the info so far. Just wondering whether it is a requirement at Lakes to do a community run in both PGY1 and PGY2, or is it just one or the other?
It's just one over the 8 runs so one over the 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
But we do offer community runs to PGY1s, which a lot of other hospitals don't do.
Okay. Another one. You mentioned that there is a Roa Maori teaching, such as the 1-hour racism teaching session. I was wondering if there is a good teaching on cultural safety and cultural competency near the beginning of year to help new doctors to be better prepared to care for our Maori community.
Yeah, so there's also, so as well as Māori health teaching sessions during the year, actually on your very first day as a PGY1, so the first day of orientation, you have a marae visit and a noho, and Christina can probably speak to this as well, but that is run by our Māori health team here. It's at one of the local maraes, and usually very well received, and they do, you know, they're trying to give you some context about local iwi, about local Māori practices, tikanga, some local stories and waiata, to help welcome you to the area, but also to try and prepare you, you know, for working within our community. So how did you find that, Christina?
It was really awesome. I didn't actually know that we did that. So you do, if you're watching and you do come here on your first night, you will be staying at the marae. But it's great in terms of the, like, learning about the local iwi, as Kate said, and the local whānau, because the hospital is on iwi land as well. So it's really important to know that, and it's very integral to how the hospital runs. So knowing the different stories of the area is very much pushed, like, and yeah, supported. Yeah, and it's also a great opportunity to learn and get to know your peers, because you are forced into proximity. So it's great in many ways, both from the cultural aspect and both from the, like, a building support amongst your peers.
As Christina said, that the hospital is built on Te Arawa land. So the Te Arawa iwi owns this land, and they gifted it to us, gifted it to the Crown for health purposes, and they continue to have a very close relationship with us in the management of this hospital, and they're involved in all of our planning and what we do care, and it's part of our Lakes Way, we call it, and we're heavily involved in our tikanga and our Māori culture, and we have te reo classes, Māori language classes for staff, and we do run karakia and waiata sessions every morning in our atrium of the hospital that any staff can attend, and many of them do, and it's a beautiful thing to start the day with several waiata and a karakia.
And also we have a manawa po service who are the cultural support service here at the hospital. And so if you have any questions along the way and you don't want to wait for a specific teaching moment, then the staff are really receptive to you just giving them a shout and saying, hey, what do I do in this situation? Or I felt uncomfortable here, or can you help me? They're really awesome. And it's a 24-hour service as well.
Yeah. I'll just also add, we had our accreditation visit from the Medical Council 1 year ago, and that was one thing we were really commended on, was our sort of cultural safety training and our Māori health team. I personally think that we can still do better, and we are trying to increase the sessions on Māori health, cultural safety and awareness of those issues, because I think that we should be doing a better job, could be doing a better job. But it was something that we're commended on, which shows me that other places are probably doing it a lot worse than us. And also we, as a pre-vocational group, we're quite dedicated to making that a priority, and also really supporting our Māori RMOs, but also our non-Māori RMOs to be competent, working in a community with a high Māori population. And two of our pre-vocational supervisors are Māori, which I think has really helped in terms of offering that support.
Okay, one last question. This is a common question that I used to get from the emails that I get, and sometimes in the past webinars. How is the leave application? Is it easy to be approved, or the leave application that they file? How's the approval?
I can speak from someone who's submitted leave. I think the key with any hospital is to try and plan early and get in early with your leave applications. I've had most, if not all, of my leave approved for the year, but I know it's variable. You just have to get in early, and then if it doesn't work out and you really need the leave, then the MMU unit is pretty reasonable, and you can negotiate which days it is they can't cover you and why. So I've found it a fine process.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'd say I've had like 95% of my leave approved.
Yeah.
But you have to just be really onto it and apply early.
And also be aware that Christmas is going to be Christmas and school holidays are hard periods. So if you're a parent, then definitely get in early, and just don't expect to have Christmas and New Year's off, because it's probably not realistic. You have to work one or the other.
Yeah, it's only fair for your colleagues.
No, I think, basically at the moment I am trying to keep it to the full response and within 14 days as per the MECA. I will generally, like the girls have said, basically will offer up an alternative date if I feel I can't, as close to that as possible. It does depend what you put as a reason for the leave as well. So if it's just a holiday, so then that kind of indicates to me that it may be able to be moved, and then I will try and let you know that there are other dates available. But yeah, always open to being approached and having a talk about it. Yeah.
And also I find that our colleagues are really supportive, and if there is a day that you need off, most people are willing to swap with you.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's also another option if you don't get approved.
Yeah, so we do allow swaps, which is happens all the time, and swaps are always approved, provided that it's not going to run you into extended hours or additional duties, things like that. So very open to it. So basically our motto, Leanne and I's motto, is that if we can say yes, we will say yes, and we try to make it happen as much as possible. But there will be times when we have to say no because we have to keep the hospital running.
I think that's one advantage of a smaller place is that you do know people personally. All the RMO group are pretty tight and know each other and will help each other out. And you are known personally to the RMO team as well, the RMO unit team, who do generally really try and make things happen. And you can just pop in there and ask and go through the roster, and you know there is if you can be a bit flexible, then you can usually make things work. And if it's something really important like a wedding, then you know everyone will try and help out to make sure you get it.
And I think it's also really important to point out that, like, if you go in to the office, that everyone's looking out for you. If you go in and you look a bit tired and you're coming across a bit burnt out, they'll say, you know, if your next leave booked in, and try and book you in for some leave. So I know that happens quite a lot for the PGY ones. So it's a very holistic approach in trying to look after us and not make us burn out too.
Okay, that's it. Any last words of advice for our applicants?
Apply to Rotorua, it's the best, you will never regret it. We don't want to leave.
And organize a visit or a Zoom or something. It's really
Yeah, Zoom is fine.
Yeah.
We're all about reducing the carbon footprint as well, so Zoom is fine.
But in your applications, if you do want to come here, make sure we know that, because we are reviewing, 230 applications, and we have to be able to identify who are the ones that really want to come here. So make sure that you make that known to us one way or another.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the wonderful support that you give to ACE. And Leanne, thank you. I know it's a very short notice, but we were able to make it.